Hi guys, welcome to yet another video on the series of videos that we are doing for the NPAT examination. So in today's video, we'll be looking in detail about how to approach the grammar part in the verbal aptitude in the NPAT examination. So let's get started with today's video. So if you take the case of the verbal aptitude paper in the NPAT examinations, you can see that we have a total number of 40 questions. And in that 40 questions, I think you can expect questions from areas such as the reading comprehension, areas such as para completion, para jumbles, choosing the correct word, and especially synonyms and antonyms, and spotting errors, and also from idioms and phrases, right? And here the focus area, I think we can expect at least 16 to 20 questions from reading comprehension alone. And in the case of parajumbles and para completion together, also we can expect 10 questions, around 10 questions from these areas. And then in the case of basic vocabulary, we can expect at least 5 to 7 questions. And coming to the case of grammar, what you can expect is that around 6 to 8 questions you can expect from grammar alone. So when we are talking about grammar, the type of questions that we can expect from grammar is that uh, most probably they will be giving a sentence and they will be asking us to identify the grammatical error in the sentence. So that is the most probable type of question that we can expect from the grammar area. So what can we study or what can we do in order to ace this grammar part? That is the main reason why we are doing today's video. So let's take a look at main areas of the grammar part regarding to the NPAT examination. So some of the basic areas of grammar that we have to master are parts of speech, figures of speech, tenses, subject-verb agreement, and active voice and passive voice. So let's take a deep look at each of these areas. So in the case of parts of speech, we all know that this is a very important area of parts of grammar because in the case of most questions that can be asked, it can be related to parts of speech. So in order to understand parts of speech, we need to understand what are the different kinds of parts of speech, first of all. And we have to understand how these different part contributes to the structure of a sentence. We know that for every structure, or every sentence, there is a basic structure, which is the subject plus verb plus object. So, how different are these parts of speech doing their functions in a given sentence? So, if we have a clear understanding of that particular feature, it will be very useful to us and very easy for us to identify an error in a given sentence. So, basically, as I mentioned earlier, you can also expect sentence completion questions. So, from that, we have to choose the correct parts of speech. And also the very important types of question that you can expect from the grammar part is that to identify a error in a given sentence. So if we have a clear understanding, what are the different kinds of parts of speech, what are the examples, and what are the function of these parts of speech, then it will be very easy for us to identify the error in a given sentence. So apart from the parts of speech, we have another category which is active voice and passive voice. So first of all, we need to understand what is the distinction between active voice and passive voice, right? And in what all situations should we use active voice and passive voice? So we all know that in active voice, the subject is given the more importance, and in the case of passive voice, the object is given the more important. So you can expect questions that ask you to convert sentences from active voice to passive voice. And also you can expect questions which ask you to identify if a whether given sentence is in active voice or passive voice, right? So in order to ace this particular part, you have to understand, first of all, the distinction or the difference between an active voice and a passive voice, right? And the next important topic is tenses. So, like parts of speech, tenses is also very important because in the case of error spotting questions, most of the questions comes under the category of tenses. So, we need to understand the various verb tenses, right? Such as the present tense, the past tense, the future tense, and their usage. We need to understand how are these tenses formed. We all know that for each kind of parts of each kind of tenses, we had different forms, right? So we need to understand this form. So if we have a very good understanding of this form, how these parts of speech are formed, then it is very useful, very easy to identify the error in a given sentence. So I can say that uh, in the case of error spotting sentences, you can expect more questions from tenses and as well as from parts of speech, right? So in the case of tenses also, the most number of questions that you can expect is from the error spotting. So basically there will be a given sentence and you will be asked to identify the error in the sentence, or they will mark different parts of the sentences and they will ask you to identify which of the parts in the given sentence contains a grammatical error, right? So also you may expect questions which ask you to complete the sentence with the correct verb tense, basically fill in the blank questions, right? So these are the kind of questions that you can expect from the tenses part. And finally, another very important topic, which is the subject-verb agreement, right? So first of all, when we are studying about subject-verb agreement, we need to understand the rules that is governing the subject-verb agreement, right? So if we have a clear understanding of that, then it will be very useful for us to identify the error in a given subject-verb agreement, right? So here also you can expect questions related to error spotting, right? And also sentence completion questions. So if you have a good understanding of what are the various rules regarding subject verb agreement, it will be very easy to ace this particular part. And finally, we come to another part of grammar, which is figures of speech, right? So we all know that we have different kinds of figures of speech, such as metaphor, simile, personification, hyperbole, etc. Right? So these basic figures of speech, what are these basic figures of speech? What are the functions of these basic figures of speech? And also, how are these figures of speech used in a given sentence, right? So if that is understood, it will be very useful for us to identify, to ace these particular questions regarding figures of speech, right? So some of the common expected questions regarding figures of speech are basically error spotting, and also they may ask us to apply figures of speech in writing or completing the sentence, right? So basically there will be a given sentence and in between there might be a error or there might be a fill in the blanks, right? So understanding by analyzing that, we will have to fill in the blanks, right? So if we have a very good understanding regarding figures of speech, it will be very useful for us. And some general tips regarding how to ace the grammar part. So one basic tip is to practice regularly. So just have a clear understanding of these areas and practice questions regarding that. And always review our mistakes. So understand and learn from mistakes. So what are the areas that we have to focus on? What are our strong points? What are our weak points? So go through that, and also develop a very good reading habit, right? So if we have a very good reading habit, then when we are coming across, particularly in the case of error spotting questions, you can identify the error even without looking at the options, right? So we may identify, yeah, this is not right. So reading will always helps us, right? So those are some of the general tips, and in the upcoming videos, we will be coming with much more content regarding to related to grammar. So stay tuned, guys. Thank you.